toasting, joking too. Sipping and roasting is what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down. Whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
That sounds like a party.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin', show number 302, and ooh, very spooky, it's our Halloween show. Yeah, so I promise not to make any of those really, really bad Halloween puns. Sorry to disappoint, but we will be doing a pumpkin beer blind taste test
You're
today.
promising that, but I'm not.
Oh, did not do any bad Halloween puns?
Yeah, I'm not promising
All
that.
right, well, you don't want me to start with holding the pumpkin beer, do you? Now, let me ask you this. How are you on pumpkin beer? Is this a thing that you look forward to? Do you tolerate it? Do you like it but get tired of it quickly? Like, where do you come in on the pumpkin beer?
So pumpkin beers I
scale?
like as a seasonal. It's not something I want to have all the time.
Right.
Pumpkins, because a lot of them are a little bit much, but... With that said, there are some that are really done well. So Shipyard is one that we've tried before, and I usually pick up Shipyard.
And it won't be on our taste test today. I left it out on purpose.
When you drink it, it tastes a lot like the crust.
Yeah,
like it's
right.
so good. It's
You
really
can get
nice.
the crust of the
but
pumpkin
again,
pie.
it's something that a lot of times when I have a pumpkin beer, I'm going to split that with somebody.
Right. You're doing it more for the taste.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll be doing a lot for the taste today as we get into, there'll be, I believe, 7 different pumpkin beers we'll be trying today.
Ooh.
And we'll be trying to blind, and we'll talk about what we like and what we don't like. It's not so much about, a lot of times when we do the blind taste test, we rank each segment. Like if we do 3 or 4, we'll go, here's the best ones.
So we're going to do a blind taste test of pumpkin beers. That's kind of like wandering around the pumpkin patch at night.
Yeah, waiting for the great pumpkin to arrive. One of the greatest holiday specials
it's the
ever.
Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
One of the greatest holiday specials ever. And you always wonder where Linus came up with the whole Great Pumpkin story. It's like because it's never been like a part of folklore or anything. But then these days there's so many conspiracy theories about everything. The Great Pumpkin seems tame by comparison.
Right.
You know?
Probably something with the government.
Probably was. The deep state. The Great Pumpkin is a member of the deep state. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this program. We are on the 302nd episode of Smokin' and Toastin', all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We want to say thanks to our guest last week, who not only was a guy that brought amazing wines, but he was really fun to hang out with, as he always is.
He's so
Mr.
fun.
Mark Burrell, our Smokin' and Toastin' wine expert. Mark, of course, is the sommelier at the Rainbow Lodge here in Houston. And I'm just telling you, if you're visiting Houston from out of town, that needs to be on your list of places to try and eat while you're here.
If you're coming from out of town, you think, man, what's good fine dining in Houston?
Yeah.
Do not pass that one up.
Yeah, and it's very different fine dining. It is definitely that, but it's very different because it's more like almost down home, and they've got all this kind of different
walking
meats
into a
and
hunting lodge.
It
That's
really
their
is.
whole kind of.
But with a great chef and a great wine selection.
Amazing.
So it really is good. And great cocktails, too. Anyway, thanks to Mark for being on the program. Next week will be the show that we do right before the Whiskey Social.
The Whiskey Social.
Right. And so we contacted Chris Hart to ask him to be on the show. And apparently he thinks he's too good to be on the show now.
He is.
So he's sending a couple of flunkies in his case.
Who's he sending?
I don't know the guys. I have their names written down somewhere, but I don't even have them in here. But it wasn't Alan Denny, if that's what you're thinking.
Was it Doug Carroll?
I bet it is.
I like that guy.
Yeah, so I didn't really mean to call him flunkies. So he and another guest will be here with us next week talking about the Whiskey Social.
Awesome.
And I think we will drink
well, there's actually,
some
so
whiskey
we
together.
always talk to Chris Hart, but there's actually a lot of people involved.
Yes, there are.
With the Whiskey Social.
He's sort of the face of it.
Yeah,
but
he gets the face time.
Yeah.
But maybe it's nice to get some other folk on there.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun and drink a little whiskey, talk a little whiskey. So that'll be next week's show, and we'll be looking forward to that. But today, a pumpkin beer blind taste test, and Ian has brought perhaps the most unusual rum that I've ever seen. What can you tell us about this rum?
This loosely rum. It's Mama Juana is what it's called. I
Mama
believe
Juana?
that's 2 words, Mama Juana.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine brought it back from his honeymoon when he got married. So this is actually a few years old. I've had this for a while.
And that's from the Dominican Republic.
This is from the
isn't it?
Dominican Republic, and this particular bottle has this incredibly neat leather sleeve that goes around it.
Right,
It's all stitched up around it.
That is a sort of an untanned leather is what that is.
Yeah, it's crazy cool, and it has stuff written all over it. I don't
Love the palm trees.
I don't even know
love
what it says. It's all
the
in
congas and the maracas.
Espanol.
Yeah, but this is.
Wait a second.
Can you tell what
Look,
it says?
I only speak so much Spanish, but right here on the top it says, "Este producto revitalize el vigo sexual."
Oh well, there you go.
Like that's the first thing it says on here.
That's pretty good.
Apparently, this is a sexy show.
Which, by the way, is Spanish for revitalize the vita sexual.
Vigo
Vigo, whatever.
sexual.
Yeah. But I can only translate the one word. So
Something with a natural plant base.
well.
I could try to read it in Spanish, but I'm sure that Spanish-speaking people out there
Yeah.
would like all go blind in one ear.
You know
after
what
I
we
did
might
it.
do? We might have you bring it back in the next time we have our
yeah.
tequila expert on, and we'll see if she'll read that for us.
But it's incredibly interesting because it's all tooled leather and it's got like painted and all kinds of stuff on here. And he bought this and gave it to me. We sat and tried it. It's incredibly interesting.
Okay, I can't
but it's
wait.
largely made of rum, and looking it up online, Mama Juana has a lot of times some kind of wine, but a lot of botanical stuff in it. And if you look in the bottle, like,
I don't think of rum as having botanicals.
If you can see it, if you look at the rum, maybe you can see it with just the right angle. But it's filled with sticks,
Oh, good.
like twigs and sticks. And
Oh, you're so right. There's all
Plant life.
kinds of plant stuff in there. All right, so I guess it is botanicals, and that's going to be very interesting, my friend. I will look forward to that with great excitement. So we will be.
That's a stick where if you chew on it a while, you're going to get a little bit hammered.
Yeah, I was, just watching the Astros games. I was watching Dusty Baker, the manager of the Astros, chewing on those toothpicks. We should give him some of these,
Some of these
sticks
Mama
to chew
Juana
on.
sticks.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Also on the program today, we will be talking about some cigars for you to watch for. We mentioned this last week, but didn't tell you about it. CAO is introducing a new 12-day cigar advent calendar.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I
that's
really
right. We
want one of
talked
these.
briefly about it, but we didn't get to the article.
And Cigar Aficionado has a new list of 16 mild cigars that even occasional smokers will enjoy. And I thought that'd be good because we don't talk a lot about mild cigars on the show.
No, we
because both of us
overlook them a little bit.
kind of tend towards the
I
more
can certainly
medium
recommend
to
a few
full.
that I actually go for.
It'll be
from
interesting
time
to see
time.
if they're on this
Yeah.
list, and if not, we should definitely
Addendum the list.
Definitely addendum the list. And yet another band has gotten into the whiskey business. It's Kings of Leon. So we'll tell you about their new
They're oddly enjoyable.
Kiamichi whiskey. I like them. And
do
by the way,
too.
I'll just mention this. There is a music documentary. You can find it on Netflix. I believe it's one of the greatest music documentaries I've ever
seen that.
watched.
Is that about them coming from their small town?
Talahina Sky is the name of it.
Right.
It's all about Kings of Leon. And
I
it's
haven't
awesome.
watched it yet, but I've seen that it exists and it's on my radar.
There's a brilliant. So the town they come from is so like backwoods, and it's so like in the middle of nowhere. And there's a segment in my favorite segment of the whole thing is where there's I think it was an uncle of theirs that they're filming him and getting him commenting on things, and he talks about how and there was a point in time when they were really beginning to get popular that they made the cover of Rolling Stone, which for any music artist is
that's pretty
big
huge.
deal, right?
Right. There's a song about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Rolling Stone.
Yeah. So the band Kings of Leon is on the cover of Rolling Stone. It just so happened that week on The Price is Right, one of the showcases was like a rock and roll vacation. It was a getaway and it had this and this, a guitar and all this and a year's subscription to Rolling Stone because you figured they were one of the sponsors of the showcase package, right? And so when the spokesmodel on Price is Right holds up the Rolling Stone magazine, it just happens to be the one that Kings of Leon is on the cover of.
All right, hold on. We're talking about being out in the country. So let me guess. No one's excited that they're on Rolling Stone, But holy cow, they made the prices right.
That's exactly right. The uncle, they're interviewing me. He's like, I was calling everybody I know saying, them boys is on the Price is Right. It's on the Price is Right. So that's one of the
That
most.
is fantastic.
And it's so
I love it.
genuine.
Right, right.
It's so genuine. He's not, joking around. Anyway, it's Tallahena Sky is the name of it. You can see it on Netflix if you have Netflix.
I'm totally going to check that out.
Or at least that's where I watched it. I believe it's still on Netflix.
Right.
So check it out. So also on our program, we have our own little sort of Tallahena Sky segment we like to call Drinking News. And our Drinking News teaser headline today, it's nothing to snort at. So we'll look forward to that. And a whole lot to talk about. I'm assuming, though, I've had one of the most busy weeks that I've had in a long time. And I had very little time to actually sit and enjoy cigars this last week. I did manage to smoke one that I want to talk about on the show, but let's ask you first. We're
gonna forget about last week, all right?
Okay.
Last week is going to be stricken from the record.
I would like to do that, actually.
It was, man, it's just one of those weeks.
Yes.
For those of you out there who know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I won't belabor that any longer than I have to. I went out this morning, and my humidor is in pitiful shape. I have not much left, but I found one.
In the humidor?
I found one in my humidor. Went out on my patio. I found a Man of War, and I look back. I have never. I did actually just a month and a half ago. I talked about the Man of War Abomination, but I've never talked about the standard Man of War.
Just the regular Man of War cigar. Yep.
The core line Man of War. Mm-hmm. And I thought, you know what, this is a good one to do. This is a 5x50 Robusto, Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, Nicaraguan binder and filler. The appearance on this thing: rustic, old leather. Veiny, oily, inconsistent firmness, somewhat lumpy, and the badass Man of War band. Because that band looks awesome,
yes,
right?
It does. With the
helmet
shield helmet, yeah.
So, after all that being said, it's actually not an unpleasant cigar to look at, but it's got a lot of things going on.
Yeah, for sure.
The pre-light sniff on this, I got Barnyard. Get this. Are you ready for this one?
Mm-hmm. Go for it.
I might have jumped the shark on this one, but I got Barnyard, Vintage Bookstore. I'm waiting for that to sink in.
I'm loving it. I'm loving everything about
Vintage Bookstore, coffee, and mocha at the foot. Come on, there is a very specific
yes,
nose to a vintage
exactly
bookstore.
What
you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I don't know why that popped in my head, but that's what it smelled like to me.
So it's what are the things again? What? Vintage Bookstore and what? Because I totally
Barnyard,
forgot
Vintage Bookstore, coffee, and mocha at the foot.
And mocha, okay.
So kind of a rustic nose to it as well, if you will.
Sounds
the
that
pre-light
way.
draw. I used a clip and the cap cracked on it.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
It peeled right off. It actually smoked just fine. I'm going to go ahead and give that one right away.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little what do you call it? A little tattered at the end where I was smoking it, but that didn't really affect the smoke much. So so I actually didn't even take that into consideration with the thing, because I've had many of these before and the cap hasn't cracked. So it could have been that I dropped it or some thing like that. But the effortless draw, rich coffee, creamy sweetness, leather, Vintage Bookstore again, and earth. The initial light on this, Nicaraguan Pepper Blast.
Ba-doom, ba-doom.
And boy, does it, Nicaraguan Pepper Blast.
Well, I'm not surprised since it's Man of War.
Right. Also, just so you know, this was created by none other than A.J. Fernandez.
Yeah.
So you kind of expect...
This isn't one of his more subtle blends, though.
No. It comes in at a very medium.
Yeah.
But that Pepper Blast at the beginning would belie that. I mean, it's big. Like, you would think you're right into a full flavored cigar, but it comes in at a medium once you get into it. Once the NPB, the Nicaraguan Pepper Blast, once the NPB settles, a host of flavors appear, including coffee, mocha, nuttiness. I decided to change Vintage Bookstore to Dusty Tome.
Okay.
So
I can go with that.
Because it just sounds cooler, right?
Yes.
So I got coffee, mocha, nuttiness, dusty tome, leather, and an overall sweetness to balance the pepper. Leather and a slight leather leaves a slight tingle on the lip. The leathery wrapper leaves a slight tingle on the lip. Sorry, I can't read my own notes here. The retrohale is peppery and woody and sweet. Solid ash, good burn. The second third of the cigar. Loads of dense smoke with every puff. Pepper is consistent. However, the sweetness and nuttiness shine through here with supportive notes of leather, dusty tome, earth, coffee. I need like some reverb on my voice every time I say dusty tome. Earth, coffee, mocha, and a touch of cayenne in the back of the palate. Retrohale is woody and sweet with pepper. Solid ash, good burn. Going into the last third of the cigar, rich leathery sweetness backed by spicy pepper and earth. Mocha and sweet coffee round out the flavor profile. And I didn't say anything about Dusty Tome here. It kind of went away. And it's not a bad flavor. It's just, just I don't know why the vintage bookstore / Dusty Tome really stuck in my palate there.
It's a thing, though.
Mocha and sweet coffee round out the flavor profile. Retrohale is wood and sweet with pepper. Solid ash, good burn. Complex and rich blend by A.J. Fernandez. You ready for this?
Yeah, lay it on me.
At $8-ish, if you're going to buy a stick,
right.
Usually at a store, or if you buy a single online.
Tell me about how. Was it medium full? Was it all the way full?
It was medium.
It was medium.
It started off with a big, full Nicaraguan pepper blast, and then just backed off to medium.
Okay.
But it's a real good medium. It's a spicy medium, too. So if you like medium cigars, but not a lot of spice, then you might not like this. But this is very spicy and quite good. Sweet and spicy, too. You know, sweet to balance it. So
$8.
So at $8, the price to quality, I give it a solid 5. I mean, it's as good as AJ makes, you know?
That's great.
I didn't spend $8 on it.
Yeah, but that's one of the things, though. This was one of his earlier blends. And
Been
I
around
feel
forever.
I feel like he's only gotten better and better as he's blended. So to go back to this and feel like it stands up to
It totally stands
his other
up.
things at $8, that's really saying
totally
something
stands
awesome.
up. And I didn't pay $8 for it.
Right.
I on Cigar Bid, one of those things. I got a bundle of them. It cost $2.70 a stick.
So if you could get it at that price, what price to quality would you
Gave
give
it an 8.
Yeah,
At
sure.
$2.70 a stick for a cigar that good, man. And even at an 8, if I was going to knock it off for the cap coming off, I could only knock it down by like a 0.5.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, no, at $2.70 a stick, that gets
Nice.
an 8. That's a badass cigar for that much.
That
with
is
a great
awesome.
label.
Well, I decided to try a cigar brand that I haven't smoked in a long time. This week I had the Tatuaje Havana 6 Nobles, which is the Robusto. And like I said, I hadn't smoked a Tatuaje in a long time, so I figured I was overdue. It was a nice looking cigar. Not beautiful, but kind of just like a classic cigar look. A little bumpy, you know, a few noticeable veins, but it had that thin Tatuaje band around it with the fleur-de-lis, you know. I used a punch and checked out the pre-light notes and cold draw, and man, am I glad that I did. One of the most awesome pre-light aromas that I've ever encountered on this cigar. And I wasn't really expecting that, you know. It was earthy, loamy, rich, deep tobacco notes, and chocolate. I honestly, for a moment, I couldn't decide whether to light it or just keep sniffing.
I have had cigars that were
you
so
know?
good like that, where I'll sit there and just puff it like unlit for a little while.
I really, if I hadn't been doing the review, I would have stayed with it longer unlit, but I was like, okay, I got to get started on this. The Havana 6 sports a Habano wrapper and Nicaraguan binder and fillers, and it's blended and rolled in Nicaragua at the El Rey de los Habanos factory. So I wasn't too surprised when I was greeted by our old friend, the Nicaraguan pepper blast.
NPB.
The NPB, on the very first few puffs. Tingly notes of pepper on my tongue and that deep tobacco richness that I picked up on the pre-light were the first things that hit my palate. I also got leather and tea leaf and a darker dried fruit note, like a black cherry maybe. I don't know. Sometimes I have trouble distinguishing. It's like when you're eating a slice of fruit cake. Do you know which fruit you're getting at that, that moment?
When you're doing what?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, I've seen fruitcakes.
You've had fruitcake before.
Who's
though,
actually eaten one, though?
I have it when I was a kid. That's why I don't eat them now.
I thought fruitcakes didn't actually get eaten. I thought literally they just got saved to next year and given to someone else.
No, they
kind of like candy corn.
They actually have a really good purpose, and I'll tell you what that is. If you live in like an older house and you have one of those doors that you can't get to stay open, the fruitcake makes a great
They're
door
dense,
stop.
too. They always weigh a ton. There's
yeah.
a tiny little thing that weighs like 5 pounds.
You'll have no problem with your door at that point. But in any case, I got, let's call it black cherry. That's what it
I am
seemed
joking.
like
My wife
to me.
loves fruitcake. I don't eat it very much, but go ahead.
So right from the start, the burn was excellent on this. And the ash, though, was a little crooked. You can see that in the picture right there. Not a big deal, but it did make me worry a little bit about it falling on me. So I decided to handle with care. I flicked it off at about a half inch out of an abundance of caution. I've always wanted to say an abundance of caution.
Nice.
Makes me feel like I sound kind of intelligent,
right.
like it's a big deal, something a lawyer would say.
Anyways, you could tell we're past the 80s because back then we didn't have things like caution or safety or anything like that.
I certainly didn't in the 80s. That I had an abundance of something, but it sure wasn't caution. Once I did flick that off, the burn line looked like it might need a little help on one side, which you can see here. So I used my lighter for a quick touch-up, and it went back to almost perfect very quickly. A note of baking spices started to show up in the second third. There was still pepper, although it had receded quite a bit from the opening blast. I was able to detect a tea leaf note and a kind of an oakiness as well. The room note of the cigar was just as impressive as the pre-light had been. This is one of those cigars that if you're smoking it around other people, people will actually stop and say, I really like that cigar you're smoking.
Right.
That smells great. Even people that don't smoke cigars. So except for the really uptight people, of course, they would not ever stop and say that. I'm feeling a little bit like...
You mean Californians?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I'm feeling a little bit like my review here is just... I mean, it's really hard to follow Dusty Tome, I guess is what I'm saying. I feel like I'm not really living up to the...
Is that what's messing you up a little bit?
It's bothering me a little bit here. Anyway, on this cigar, the draw was perfect. Very easy to smoke. The final third ramped up the earthy tobacco notes a bit with leather and oak still prominent. There was a creamy quality to this smoke, too, which kept it from having any bitterness at all. A little bit of coffee and some pepper on the retrohale. Now, the burn line didn't stay as even in the final third, but it wasn't anything that hampered the enjoyment of the smoke. You can see that a little bit, too. The Tatuaje Havana 6 Nobles was not groundbreaking, but it was a very enjoyable smoke throughout. The strength was just maybe one notch past medium-bodied. All the flavors were very full, very easy to enjoy. It's a solid cigar, and you can get it for about $8, which these days is about what you'd expect to pay for most premium Robustos. Now, there was no Dusty Tome note. So if you're looking for that, this is not the cigar for you.
You got to go with the Man of War.
But I really enjoyed it, and for me, it's an easy cigar to recommend. Price to quality, solid 5 for me on this one.
Nice.
At $8, don't feel like I overspent on it at all.
So $8 gets a solid 5 both ways around today.
Yeah, how about that? That's pretty
nice.
good. That's pretty good. And we never planned that, by the way.
No.
Because I never know what cigar
we
you're
never
going to
talk
talk
about
it. Or whether
As a matter
you
of
liked
fact,
it
the
or
only
not.
time we've ever done that
Is when we agreed to smoke the same thing.
We agreed on the show to smoke the same thing. But
Right.
there was a couple times where we actually smoked the same thing.
Yeah, and didn't realize
And had
it.
no idea. That's funny.
That's always been kind of funny. So, all right, we have a lot to do, as I mentioned on the show today, and we want to get started on this pumpkin beer blind taste test. So we'll taste the first 2 pumpkin beers in the next segment. Jong, our producer, is going to be pouring them for us and not telling us what they are. So I'm looking forward to this. This will be a blast. It's Smoking and Toasting, show number 302, and we will be right back. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. I love the bass line on that song. It's a fun little bass line. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, show number 302. And we're doing pumpkin beers today. This is our Halloween show. So we decided not to dress up in costume or, have any ghosts hanging in the studio or anything like that. We just are going to do pumpkin beers. That's our salute to Halloween. So in this segment, we'll get started with the first couple of them. We'll do blind taste tests. So there's only going to be 7 of them in all. So we'll talk about maybe what our favorite 2 or 3 are at the end, but we're not going to necessarily rank each segment. We'll just talk about what we like and what we don't like, and then in the end we'll pick our favorites. So in the meantime, I want to tell you about some cigars to watch for. The latest release of our Toro Fuente Rare Pinks. It's a line of Perfectos that helps a very good cause. Began shipping just a couple of weeks ago. Included among the shipments are a pair of long-awaited new sizes. One of them, called the Sophisticated Hooker, was first puffed nearly 1 year ago by the seminar audience at the Big Smoke Meets Whiskey Festival in November of 2021 that Cigar Aficionado does. The cigars were originally due to be on the market much sooner, but Fuente held up the release date when the company decided to change the box count from 10 to 20. So they had to redo the boxes, and that kept them from coming out.
Just a point on there. Big Smoke Meets Whiskey.
Yeah, doesn't that sound like a great idea?
Sounds like a pretty good thing.
Yeah, it sounds like a great thing.
I had a blast when we did the Big Smoke a few years back.
In Vegas? Yeah, that was so much fun. We want to do something really spectacular with this cigar, Fuente told Cigar Aficionado. The box is big. It's a box of 20, a big box of 20, and the cigars are already well over a year old. We wanted to wait. Making these boxes wasn't easy, and we shipped to the entire country at once, and we held everything back to make a big splash to try to raise as much money for breast cancer research as possible.
Nice.
And that's what this whole thing about. The Sophisticated Hooker is a huge cigar. It's 7 1/16 inches long with a 53 ring gauge and has a suggested retail price of $17.70, which big cigar, special cigars, the blend is supposed to be fabulous and raising money for a good cause. So to me, that doesn't seem like, super premium, yes, but I would spend that for that cigar in order to try it. The unusual name might bring something lewd to mind, but the double entendre comes from the name of a large fishing boat that Fuente remembers that he fished on in Key West in his younger days. There's also a Queen of Hearts size, which is 4 1/4 by 60, and it went in this shipment as well. It retails for $14.70 and also comes in 20-count boxes. The Rare Pink line was created by Fuente in late 2020. The cigars have dark Ecuadorian wrappers, Dominican binders, and a mix of Nicaraguan and Dominican filler tobacco. These are rare, so if you see them, they're called Rare Pink. If you see them, at least snap up one to try.
I'm willing to
because
bet
they won't be there the next time you go to your shop.
I'm willing to bet the Sophisticated Hooker sounds much cooler when it's coming from a guy with an accent and a hat.
Totally. From Mr. Fuente? Yes, 100%.
That sounds,
yeah.
When he says it, you're like, I totally want that.
Boutique cigar maker HVC Cigars will be releasing...
Man, they've been coming on hard recently, and they're great, those hotcakes.
Yeah, and now they're releasing their annual Black Friday cigar, which is expected to appear at retail later this month or in early November.
Nice.
The Black Friday HVC limited edition 2022 Robusto Extra, 5.5 inches by 50 ring gauge, Cuban seed wrapper grown in Ecuador, but the rest of the tobacco is Nicaraguan. They say there's no Ligero tobacco in the cigar, which is typically used for strength. Rather, this year's Black Friday is made with Viso and Seco leaves, which are not as strong as they grow lower on the plant and get a little less sun exposure. Production limited to 600 cabinets of 50 cigars. The box retails for $425 before tax, or about $850 per cigar. This is the first Black Friday release made at the company's new factory. So
I'm for it.
Something, again, limited. I love these limited things because you can go in, check them out, and you feel like you got an extra excuse to try one because, I won't be able to get it next time, so I better. And a new limited edition size of Room 101's 12th anniversary has landed at a handful of stores around the country, perhaps at one of your favorites. It's a 6 by 56 Perfecto that uses the same Nicaraguan blend as the original Room 101 12th anniversary, a 6 by 52 Toro that was released during the second half of 2021. This blend, they say, performs in this Vitola majestically. That's according to your buddy Matt Booth.
Nice.
Your admirer. Production of the 12th anniversary Perfecto is limited to just around 450 boxes of 10 cigars, and the release is limited to just 6 retailers across the country, according to what Matt Booth told the Half Wheel. So 6
retailers across the country.
You're going to have to do some research on this one.
There's going to have to be one in Houston.
It has an MSRP of $16 per cigar and $160 for a box of 10. The Room 101 12th anniversary is produced by, who'd have thunk it? Tabacalera A.J. Fernandez Cigars of Nicaragua. And all of the tobacco in the blend was grown by A.J. So I guess Matt worked with A.J. and his people to get the blend that they wanted. So a few great cigars to watch for. There are always a few that kind of begin to come out. There's this big rush at the end of the summer where all the stuff from the conventions that was introduced at PCA and all the other ones begin to hit retail. And then there's always this little trickle that kind of follows into the holiday season. So that's where we are at this.
Also get some of the PCA exclusives and things like that too.
And so if you have a favorite cigar shop, ask them what they have. When you go in, and Ian and I both do this, and I love doing it because it's just so much fun, especially if the guys there know anything about what you like.
Yeah.
If you've been in before, you just go in and ask them, what am I smoking today? I love doing that.
Oh, I've been doing that so much that I go in now like, oh, you know what we got?
Yeah, right.
I'm like,
exactly.
oh, let me know.
Yeah. Lay it on me. So,
Right?
All right. It is Halloween season, which means it's time to start singing Christmas carols. And we will...
Christmas stuff is already
Dude,
available.
it's everywhere. It always is.
Everywhere.
And it starts earlier every year. I think I heard my first commercial that said the holidays are upon us in August.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the way it always does. But we've asked John, our engineer, to pour us some, and these were both the same one, right? Okay, so we've asked him to pour us some pumpkin beers. He won't tell us what they are until after we've tasted and commented on them. We have 7 pumpkin beers, and also we'll do 2 in this segment, and then we'll keep going. And rather than ranking them, we'll tell you what our favorites were at the end. But rather than ranking them, let's just taste them and talk about them. So this would be pumpkin beer number 1. And I will mention, by the way, these pumpkin beers are all different styles. Some of them are ales, some of them may be stouts, some of them may be even sours. We'll see. The first one
is very fragrant.
It is.
Like,
it's a little more almost an Oktoberfest vibe on the nose, though, than pumpkin, don't you think?
It's very. What's the mincemeat spice kind of?
Oh yeah.
That kind of thing going on to it. It's.
It is
just the nose is so strong.
So it is like, in my opinion, this is what you would get if you combined an Oktoberfest and a pumpkin beer.
It's lighter than I thought it was going to be. It's real sweet.
Yeah, it is.
It's real sweet.
It's actually very drinkable.
Not sticky, lingering sweet, but real sweet right up front, and then has a nice little bitter crisp in the back.
The pumpkin is almost all on the finish, but you get a little bit of that Marzen that makes me think Oktoberfest as well. This, it's not the most pumpkin-y tasting pumpkin beer I've tried, but it's quite drinkable.
It tastes more like pumpkin spices than pumpkin.
Mm-hmm. Like you got a little pumpkin spice in your Oktoberfest. I know I keep saying that, but to me, I'm getting more of that pretzel-y, baking spice
If you took
thing.
some of the pumpkin kind of thing out of this, it's actually a little bit more almost like that St. Arnold Christmas ale.
Which, by the way, I saw at the store. I almost brought some in.
I've already destroyed a 6-pack.
How is it?
It's fantastic as usual.
So at St. Arnold, though, it's the same. It's the same blend
yeah, it's
every
the
year.
same thing every year.
I
and
did
they're
also
super
see.
consistent about it.
I did
too.
also see the Anchor Steam Christmas Ale.
Yeah, I almost bought a
haven't
6-pack of that. I'll be going back for that
Well, we'll be having that on the show
because that one's
for sure.
different every year.
I think maybe we should do. Have we done a Christmas Ale blind taste test before?
I don't think we have.
I don't know if we have. That might be fun to do.
Yeah, we're just a couple months away from it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's upon us.
It's upon us.
But, yeah.
It's been upon us for months, actually.
Now I understand. I understand the Christmas beers coming out early because you have a certain amount of season, you have a certain amount of time to make it, and you got to get them out, fresh and stuff like that.
And
So
I always get
kinda
excited when we're in the middle of the dead of winter and I see the spring ales start to come out because it's
Yes.
it makes you feel like, cool, we're almost there. You
Yes.
know? This is a good beer. Do you like this?
It's drinkable. It's a little there's almost a clove kind of.
Now, I'm not a real big fan of clove, but I know what you're talking about.
There's almost a clove kind of thing, and I'm not a fan of clove either. But that's not distracting. It's just a descriptor in this case. But it's nice. That's a nice one to share. I'm
gonna say
sweet up front, malty.
I'm going to say
kind of a pumpkin
I like
finish.
it. All right, John, let's go for the next one. All right. No, you'll notice how all of these beers are kind of orange.
Yeah. How about that?
Seems to be a pumpkin-y thing.
These are almost the exact same color, aren't they?
They really are. You've got more left of your first one, but this one may be just a tiny bit darker, but it looks like an ale.
Now, when John was asking me how much he should pour into each cup, he held one up about this. I was like, yeah, no, that's about right. He goes, oh, I shouldn't fill it up. I was like, no, because then we have to feel like we have to drink it all.
Yes, and
then, then the show gets a little weird by about the 4th or 5th.
we almost
segment.
called this show, instead of calling it Smoking and Toasting, we almost called it No Beer Left Behind, and that would have been a pretty good name. So, all right,
This is vastly different.
I'm not getting much on the nose on this one.
So I am once you
Kind of beerish.
Once you stop and back off it a little bit, there's a hoppy smell.
It's right. It's more hoppy beerish than the other one was. But have you tasted it yet?
I did.
Your thoughts, sir?
It's so The nose comes across real hoppy compared to the other one, but I think the other one was just so sweet that it kind of masks some
This
things.
one,
After I take a sip, I kind of start being able to parse out some of the malt and
this one is not as sweet. So, depending on how you bake a pumpkin pie, most pumpkin pies, if you eat a slice of it and you don't put any, let's say, whipped cream on it or ice cream or anything like that, it's not really very sweet.
Not usually super sweet,
as pies go, right? Because usually pies are pretty sweet if you got cherry or peach or whatever. But in this case, the first beer that we had was more like pumpkin pie with some whipped cream on top to sweeten it out, and this one strikes me more like pumpkin pie without the whipped cream.
This has it's interesting because there's a underlying spicy on this as well that I think is masked by the high carbonation. Like once you let it settle down on your tongue a minute, you can kind of get some of the spice, but the carbonation masks a bit of that at first.
Pretty drinkable too, though. Not as sweet, but pretty drinkable. Interesting. It's hard for me to say which of these I like better. I like both of them about the same, even though they're wildly different, as you were saying. It'll be interesting to see what these are. John, go ahead and show us what the first pumpkin beer was. Ah, very good. So this is from UFO, which is UFO, of course, is also it's an offshoot of our friends at Harpoon. In Boston. Their UFO Hefeweizen was so popular they actually sort of branched out and did UFO. So you can see the UFO pumpkin beer. What does it say there?
Journey to the Planet Pumpkin, seasonally spiced and brewed with real pumpkin puree. So that's what you're getting in there.
So that was the first one. Very interesting. Okay. So UFO Beer Company, let's see what the second pumpkin beer was. And, very interesting. Okay, this one is from Brooklyn Brewery. It's their Post Road Pumpkin Ale.
Okay.
So that one not quite as sweet, but very, very drinkable as well. Interesting. What's your take now that you know? Does knowing what either of these beers was inform your thoughts on them at all?
Well, so the Brooklyn Brewery, that kind of follows Post for Brooklyn Brewery because they tend to make very beer-like beers, if that makes sense. Even when they do other stuff, it's just very beer-like.
I love their.
I like the Brooklyn better. I actually gave it one higher point than the than UFO, but it would have been a little bit better for me if it's slightly less carb.
I agree.
It's
a little carbonated,
but it's good. I like it. I would like if the first one I would rather share with a friend. The second one I could drink by myself.
Okay. That makes some sense. I think there are going to be some other ones of these that are likely going to be really heavily into that share with a friend category.
And that's kind of like my two categories.
And these are both, I think, lighter pumpkin ales. I suspect we're going to have some heavier beers coming up before this is over. But those were good. I would enjoy in the holiday season once it's upon us, which apparently it is. You start developing a taste for these things and a little bit of a craving for it. And I could go through, a 6-pack of either of these beers. Maybe not all in one night, but I could definitely stock the fridge and I would drink them until they were gone. So that's pretty interesting because I don't know if I would say that about all pumpkin beers.
Right.
Some of them you're like, that was good, but I really only want just one.
Really
you
only
want to
want
put
to
those
taste
down on
some?
Mr. Twirligig there so we can show what the first two were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there we go. So fascinating. These beers, I think, both kind of what you expect from a pumpkin ale, if that makes sense. Not a lot of surprises here. One definitely sweeter, one a little more straight ahead, but
maybe I'm just skewed because I'm so used to Houston having the Santa Ana Pumpkinator.
And I have a feeling we're going to have that in.
And I'm so skewed because I always think when I think pumpkin beer, I think heavier beers generally.
Right. Well, and certainly the ales are going to be lighter in this case. And the UFO, was actually made with pumpkin puree. So I don't know how all of these are made, but I mean, obviously there's pumpkin in all of them.
Right.
But I don't know whether it being a puree, makes it lighter, fluffier, creamier. I don't know. fantastic.
More filling,
We'd
great
have
taste.
to have a we'd have to have an actual brewmaster on to do that.
We
so
need to get one of those.
yep, absolutely, we do. A brewmaster would be fun to have on the show. We haven't had that. We've done it before. We haven't done it in a while. All right, so let's go ahead and take a break. We'll come back. We're going to test a couple more pumpkin beers coming up, and of course, we still around the corner. We'll have a little drinking news for you, so we'll look forward to that.
Drinking news.
It's Smoking and Toasting. Thanks for hanging with us, and happy Halloween, my friends. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is our program called Smoking and Toasting. We're all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars.
Those things are good.
All good things, yes. And we welcome you back to the program. Ian's going to uncork the whiskey here. Or unscrew the top on the whiskey. That just doesn't give as satisfying a sound, does it? Nothing wrong with screw tops, but they just don't give as satisfying a sound effect.
This is the Mamawana.
I'm looking forward to it. It's got all kinds of stuff in it.
Out of it.
Got all kinds of stuff in it. While you pour, I want to tell you about a new whiskey that was just released, officially available for purchase as of last week. It's called Kiamichi Whiskey. And it is from Kings of Leon, the rock and roll band, named for the river where the followers of Kings of Leon. Oh man, I can smell this all the way over here. Named for a river close to where they grew up, and they were gathering next to this river for extended family reunions, which you can see in that documentary I was telling you about, the Talahina Sky. Anyway, it's named after that river, and the collaboration is between the boys in the band and the family behind Willet, who are the makers of some of the most well-known and respected Kentucky bourbon and rye whiskeys.
Pot Still Reserve is delicious.
So the Kiamichi Whiskey Collection includes a 5-year rye that is a 12-barrel blend of both Willet rye mash bills aged in Char 5, 24-month cured oak from Hofmeister Cooperage. And the second one's an 8-year rye.
For you to say.
Yeah, an 8-year rye that's a 6-barrel blend of Willet's low rye mash bill, aged in Char 4, 9-month cured oak from ISC, and then a 19-year-old bourbon that is a single-barrel proprietary mash bill bottled at cask strength. It's an extremely rare and high-end release that will celebrate the anniversary of Kings of Leon's debut album, Youth and Young Manhood, which debuted 19 years ago. So it's a 19-year-old whiskey tying in with that. So you might look for, you might look for that if you're out and about. I have not seen this on the shelves yet, but I don't know what states it's available in. So we'll have to try to find out. I like the band. I would be willing to try their whiskey.
I like the band too,
especially since
those
they're working
guys
with Willet.
live.
Oh, they're spectacular.
Really, really, really
spectacular.
Yeah,
They really are. So I recommend checking them out. All right. Ian has brought in, I'm going to say this before I taste it, I think perhaps the strangest rum we've ever had on the show. And this was given to you as a gift, right? So,
it
someone
was.
That was
and it might surprise you that the person who gave it to me might be one of the strangest people I know.
Now, this, I can tell you on the nose, this is all licorice. Like nothing but licorice. And I'm not the world's hugest licorice fan, so I don't know if I'm going to like this.
Go into it with an open mind. Mamawana. It says here on Wikipedia that it could be, and Wikipedia never lies, that it could be 2 words, mama and wana, or mamawana as 1 word. It's a spiced alcoholic beverage made by infusing a mixture of rum, red wine, and honey with tree bark and herbs.
Okay, well, we know there's tree bark in there for sure.
It smells like tree bark.
It really does. So rum,
it's got a
tell
little
me again.
sawdusty kind of thing. It says the taste is similar to port wine, and the color is deep red.
Okay, you got that right.
Yeah, all right.
So,
kind of
so
a muddy
tell me
red.
again, it's rum,
It
red
says
wine.
it's rum, red wine, and honey. Now,
And honey,
another
okay.
one of these that I read. Sorry.
So
I'll talk about that in a second.
is it Malort?
Another one. No. Another one of these that I read says it's just. No, it says rum, red wine, and honey, soaking tree bark and herbs. But you know how when you search stuff, I just put Mamawana drink on Google, and then it comes up with like common questions.
Right.
People also ask, is Mamawana similar to Viagra?
Oh, wow. I didn't know anything about that.
In fact, it's so valued as an aphrodisiac by Dominicans that those
no, wait,
who
you
take
said-
holidays.
What was it you read off the back of it? Something el lo sexual.
Yes.
Remember? You read that
in
off the back of it.
Espanol, revitalize el vigo sexual.
Okay, so clearly that's talking about it revitalizes your sexual vigor.
Right.
That's what it's talking about.
So this show. I hope this show doesn't get too amorous.
Yeah.
I mean, I like you and all.
Oh, yeah, but yeah, let's. All right, let's give it a try. It's all
So in
licorice on the
fact,
nose.
it is so valued as an aphrodisiac by Dominicans that those who take holidays in the Dominican Republic, that may call it. In the Dominican, they may call it liquid Viagra.
I guess it brings new meaning to that song. Why don't we get drunk and screw? Right?
Right.
All right, then we're gonna have to try this here.
So I'm looking at random bottles of it. None of them look like this bottle, but a lot of them have this little. This is the Dominican flag colors.
I think that's a very special bottle.
Yeah,
Just
it's
like
the Dominican flag colors to get the Dominican flag there. It's very cool, though, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And he told me you can really kind of just refill it with rum and anytime.
And the other botanicals and what have you all still
kind of go in
infused.
there. I guess I could put a little honey, a little red wine in there. Well, have you tried it?
No,
I'm waiting for this.
It's licorice on the nose. That's all I can say.
It's polarizing, is what it is.
Wow. It's sort of like if Malort made a rum.
So here's a funny thing.
Yeah.
It was sweeter when I first got it.
Interesting. So
Some
it's
of the sweet.
less
I
sweet.
hadn't drank it in a few years, and it's gotten bitter. It has gotten positively Malort-like.
Well, I can tell you this. I don't enjoy the flavor. But I am a little horny. So it may have some additional effect there.
It does. It does have a Malort-like bitter to it that. I remember it not being.
It's not
My
good.
God! You know
It's
what? The
not good.
second one was worse.
Yes, it was.
The second
Malort
sip.
was the same way, by the way. You think, when you're drinking Malort, you think, okay, it couldn't have been as bad as I just thought it was. So you take that second sip, and it is, in fact, as bad as the first one. And then you go, okay, I'm going to be brave and try one
There's
more.
no way a third
And
one.
the third
could
one
possibly-
is worse than either number one or number two. And I'm a little not inclined to try the third sip of this because it's been a while since I've been Malorted, but I almost feel like I like Malort better.
Oh no! Even the third sip.
So
It
Mama
kind of
Juana.
tastes like paint can and like I don't even know what else to say.
It's kind of like if
not
you
good.
It's kind of like if you took Jägermeister and you said, this doesn't taste bad enough. How can we make it taste worse? And you started trying to combine it with things to see if you could make it taste worse, and you were successful. That's what this would be.
And my lips are a little numb. Mm-hmm. What the hell? I don't know.
Wow.
Next thing you know, we're seeing things. Yeah, I'm not going to drink any more of that.
Yeah.
That's
That's going to be all I do as well. So for those who say we like everything, not so much the Mama Juana.
like I said, when I first got this, I remember having a drink of it and thinking it wasn't that bad. But man, it is rough.
I would be interested to know. Maybe you can add this to the show notes, or
Maybe it needs
mention
more
on-
red wine and honey.
Mention it on our Facebook page. But is there anybody out there who's had this and likes it? And are we just missing the boat somehow? Because I think both of us reacted the same way. You even went for a third. I
Did
was-
you see
I
the
was
look on
embarrassed.
Zhang's face?
That's great. That's great.
This was not an intentional malorting, by the way.
No,
this was,
I didn't get the impression that it was.
I was actually kind of remembering this a little more fondly, but whoa.
Yeah. Ooh-ha. Okay, we're going to take a break and try to do some sort of a palate cleanse because we got to get back to pumpkin beers. This is Smoking and Toasting. It's our Halloween show, and I guess
Can't
we
even
just
taste
got
the pumpkin in this
I
beer
guess-
anymore.
I guess we just got spooked for Halloween. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Speaking of which, Cigar Aficionado released a really nice list that I wanted to share with you. The list is of 16 mild cigars that even occasional smokers will enjoy. And we don't talk a lot about the milder cigars. We have one occasionally that we'll smoke and review.
I have a few that I recommend regularly.
But they recommend, here's the ones they recommend. The CAO Gold Torpedo. I used to smoke this cigar a lot. It is a very good, milder cigar.
I don't know if I've ever tried that one.
It's from Nicaragua. It's a 91-point rating when they rated it in Cigar Aficionado, and it retails for about $7.98. The CAO Gold line was their first Nicaraguan cigars. It's now made by General Cigar and still offers a quality woody smoke full of orange peel, almond, and raisins.
Sounds good.
At $9.25, the Espinosa Crema number 1. The Espinosa Crema line was created 4 years ago by owner Eric Espinosa as an introduction for consumers trying Espinosa cigars for the first time. The Camacho Connecticut Churchill from Honduras, rated a 90 in Cigar Aficionado. It is a $9 cigar. The Balmoral Añejo XO Connecticut Torpedo MK52, which is a mouthful.
That's a lot.
But it's $11.25, Connecticut shade wrapper, Ecuador binder, and a good-looking cigar as well. The Padron Damaso, number 12, a Nicaraguan cigar, 89 points in the review, $13.50. The Vega Fina Churchill, Dominican Republic, 89 points, $6.92.
I feel like I've had that.
I have as well. The Cohiba Connecticut Gigante, the Dominican Cohiba. It's a $22.99 cigar because it's huge, but it is the first time that the Dominican Cohiba brand was ever wrapped in an Ecuador, Connecticut cover leaf.
Lame.
It's 6 by 60. You're not a fan?
It's not $22 worth of cigar. That's for sure.
You're 100% right on that.
Like,
22 needs to knock me over.
If that was a $10 cigar at that size, I'd
right.
be like, that's okay. But it's not a $22 cigar.
Now, you're going to agree with me on this, though. The Oliva Connecticut Reserve Churchill, worth every penny of the $9.85 that it costs. 100%. That is just a wonderful lighter
Oliva
cigar.
fanboy here.
The Archetype Dream State Churchill. I'm not familiar with this, but it was a part of a series inspired by the works of psychologist Dr. Carl Jung regarding humanity's collective unconscious and mythographer Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. Okay, I think you get a little heavy for the cigar here for me, but okay, fine. Herbal.
I mean, when you're smoking a cigar, you can look reflective.
Yeah, herbal and earthy with hints of tea and honey. The New World Connecticut Bellicoso, a follow-up to the New World line, the second father and son project between A.J. Fernandez and his father. The Bellicoso size is constructed with excellent combustion, it says here. Underground Shade Corona Double, a $10.48 cigar that scored 89 points.
Underground Shade's good.
Highclere Castle Edwardian Petite Corona. I have not had this.
No idea what that is.
It's from Foundation Cigar Company in partnership with Highclere Castle Cigar Company as a tribute to Highclere Castle, which is the real-life setting of popular historical drama Downton Abbey.
Oh.
So that's where that comes from. The San Lotano Requiem Connecticut Churchill. A milder follow-up to one of AJ's first brands from AJ Fernandez. It's a thick Churchill, draws and burns evenly while giving up notes of mild spice and graham cracker. And I just had one of these. Actually, my wife's mom bought me one of these for my birthday.
Oh, nice.
It is the Monte Cristo White Vintage Connecticut Double Corona. Mine was a...
Those are great.
Mine was a torpedo, but I enjoyed that cigar so much, and it was mild, but it was just delicious, full of flavor. Beautiful, beautiful cigar. The Porlaranga Toro and the Rocky Patel Vintage 1999 Connecticut Toro. That's a $10.35 cigar. So those are the 16 cigars that they recommend for people who, maybe are even more occasional smokers.
I have a couple to add.
Yeah? Go for it.
The Fuente Hemingway series.
Yes.
That short story especially is going to be in the mild range.
Beautiful, wonderful cigar.
The Perdomo 10th anniversary champagne, any of the sizes. And the nice thing about that is you can get really small, very well made sizes in that that are really good. The Aladino Connecticut.
That is wonderful.
Fantastic cigar. A little bit of a fast smoker too. So if you have little less time and you want to go for something, that one will actually smoke faster and make you feel like you're getting money worth.
Love it.
But all those are really, really good on the mild side.
Love it. So you can find that list at Cigar Aficionado if you want to look through it and read a little more about each cigar. Many of these, they have links to their full review of them when they did their full review. So, all right, speaking of doing a full review, it's time to do some more beers here. John has poured us a couple of things, and we did. So last time we wound up with the Brooklyn Brewery Post Road Pumpkin Ale, and the first one was the UFO. Now here comes something that looks like it's a little bit darker.
Okay. This is one of two beers I'm going to guess. This is either the Dogfish Head, or the Pumpkinator.
Yeah, all right. So let's see if you can guess it once you taste it. I am definitely getting pumpkin spice on the nose.
Yeah,
but you can smell that it's a darker beer. Like it has
can
more
smell
malt,
the
more
beer
barley
in it. Yeah, and that's kind of nice too. Oh, that's the Dogfish Head.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's got a really awesome pumpkin spice and baking spice on the finish. Like it really stays on your tongue.
Well, it stays on your tongue because it's viscous. This is just shy of glue. But it's actually kind of good. Like the mouthfeel is enormous on this. It's
It really is, but you cannot escape the pumpkin. Like the pumpkin is all right in your face.
There's almost a.
It's got a toastedness to it, though.
There's a toasty, but there's almost a bubblegummy thing to it.
Really?
In a weird.
I've had other Dogfish Head beers that had a little bit of a bubblegumminess to it.
No, there's a little bit of a bubblegumminess. Like if this was neither of those, this would have to be made by Clown Shoes. This is so ridiculous that I think only those companies could make this.
Fascinating. All right, let's go on.
It'd be interesting to know.
Let's do the next beer and see how we do. Yeah. All right. Oh, look at this. This is even darker. Wow. What have we here? This makes the last one look positively transparent.
This tastes like Pumpkinator.
This is roasted. It's like roasted pumpkin seeds almost, you know?
All right, I'm standing by that. That's like Dogfish Head and Pumpkinator we just tried.
So this has got a little more sweetness on the finish.
It does. This is
like the graham cracker crust and a little bit of the
right. It's got this this kind of sugary pie filling sweetness to it.
And you're not expecting that compared to the previous one.
But also there's a coffee flavor that this has that the previous one does not have.
Oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. I was trying to retaste the previous beer, and instead I retasted the Malort rum or whatever it was we had, the Mamawana. Oh my God, I can't believe I did. Oh, it was just absolutely terrible. Just terrible. I'm gonna have you say something. I'm gonna have to eat a Whopper.
So after the last segment, we had to palate clear. I had to actually go find candy like chocolate.
Fortunately, we had some here at the studio.
Chocolate. It took chocolate and pumpkin beer to cleanse the palate after that stuff. It was. It was so.
I have made some bad mistakes. That was one of the worst.
Yeah, let's move these into a place where we can't make that mistake again.
I agree with you.
We're gonna put these in a dark place where no one will ever see them,
where no one can accidentally come across them. It's like when you bury some evil stone that you found.
I just handed them to Jean, though. I'm starting to think that at some point in time on a pumpkin beer, he may be getting us back for having him try that Mamawana.
Okay, so now I've gone back. I had a couple of Whoppers, and now I've gone back to the first one. And, okay, interesting. Now I'm going back to the second one. They are so different. When you look at them, you think they're both going to have a very similar...
So the first one's no coffee, and there's a weird funkiness to it that...
It's definitely coffee in the second one.
The second one finishes with coffee 100%.
Do you like one of them better than the other?
I think I like the second one better.
The second one seems to have a little more complexity to it.
I like the character of the second one much better than the character of the first one.
Really good, though. The first one's a little sweeter. No, it's not.
No, the second one's sweeter. The first one's got an almost Saison-like funk in the background.
Yes, it does. Almost like a farmhouse pumpkin
Kind
beer.
of a farmhouse funk.
All right, John, it's time to find out. What was the first one of these beers? The first one was
the first one is Pumpkinator. Did I have it backwards?
Fascinating. All right, there is the Pumpkinator, and then I'll pass this on to you. So this is an Imperial Pumpkin Stout, and I noticed that the bottle does have 2022 on it. Are you aware that they do anything different with Pumpkinator from one year to the next?
I don't think they do. I don't, and they're, like I said, St. Arnold's is usually so consistent, but I think it's supposed to be the same thing every year. I know that a lot of times in the last while, the Pumpkinators we tasted have been aged.
Right.
And so this is the first fresh one I've had in, well, ages.
Yeah.
And so interesting to taste it like that, especially after the other pumpkin beers. But yeah, there's kind of a Saison, kind of a funk to that, and I thought that was going to be the Dogfish Head.
I think anyone that likes that kind of beer, like the Saison style of beer or the farmhouse ale, table beer, this might be your favorite.
But
because it takes pumpkin beer into that arena.
Any amount of that it has, though, if you age this for just a little bit, it kind of starts going away pretty quick.
I would guess,
and leaves it with more of a robust kind of chocolate pumpkin-y thing going on.
But
there's never been a ton of coffee in this either. So what was the second one? I'm super curious now.
Very
Artisan.
So this is Prairie Artisan Ales, and it is their Basic Becky. And I'll let you take a look. I'll show that to the camera, but I'll let you take a look and read what that says.
So I was just wrong and wrong.
Well, you got one of them right. You just didn't apply it to the right beer. So
their
Basic
artwork
Becky.
is so awesome. Imperial Stout with pumpkin, cinnamon, allspice, nutmeg, coriander. That's one of the weird things I was getting.
Yeah.
Clove, definitely got a little of that in there, and caraway. There's coffee, like that Imperial Stout coffeeness is coming through like big time.
It almost seems like Prairie Artisan Ales is trying to single-handedly make up for how boring Oklahoma is as a state by being the most
outrageous,
creatively outrageous beer they can come up with.
There's apparently one area of Oklahoma where like all the creativity lives.
Yeah,
it's like they make beers and whiskeys there or something.
Is it in the shadow of the Oral Roberts statue? I liked both of these beers. I'm going to lean a little bit towards the Prairie Artisan Ale, but every year I love Pumpkinator when it comes out.
I like the Prairie more, but I will also tell you that I like Pumpkinator especially when it's aged.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a long game when I buy Pumpkinators. I'll generally leave it in my fridge for a couple years.
And then you go back to it. Be interesting to do a vertical on Pumpkinator.
I gotta wonder too how much the leftover. Like I know I tried to cleanse my palate as good as possible, as well as possible.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
That Mama Juana was like. Ugh.
Well, and then I of course went back to it after I tried both of these. So,
but I like the Prairie. I think I like the Prairie a little more. I love that coffee snap on the back end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Both of these are just chewy beers. Like you
so
could almost,
complex. Both
you could
of them.
almost like stick a fork in them.
Both of them are so incredibly complex.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I dig that. I really do. All right, we're going to take a break. We have we have 3 more to try in our final segment.
Oh, my goodness.
Plus, as if that weren't enough, it's just about time, my friends.
But wait,
for
there's
drinking
more.
news. Yes, absolutely. We'll be right back at Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back at Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, some not so fine spirits in the case of today, and hand-rolled cigars.
Can't believe you went back for more.
We are glad you're here. Oh, you think you can't believe it? Oh my God, that was like
on the break. I mentioned I was like, I saw you doing that, and I was going to say something to stop you, but I was flabbergasted. I was like,
listen,
he's going back. He's going back in.
I've made plenty of mistakes on this show. I've mispronounced guest names like for the whole show, and they were kind enough not to correct me.
I just assumed you were going in a danger zone and you knew what you were doing.
Oh, no. If I had known, I would never have. That's the worst mistake I've ever made on the show. Other than trusting you that second time you malorted me. That might have been the worst, actually.
I got Chris that day, too.
Yeah,
that was hilarious.
That was pretty good. Well, regardless of how you feel about the rush to the holidays, it probably never hurts to think ahead. So General Cigar Company is already holiday-minded, and they've released the new CAO 12 Days box. It is an advent calendar filled with a dozen different CAO cigars to help you count down the 12 days before St. Nick makes his rounds. I think you and I should buy one of these for each other. That should be our Christmas presents to each other.
Not a bad idea.
You should buy me one. I'll buy one for you.
There you go.
I like it. Advent calendars, of course, date back centuries. The Christmas,
What's the price on it?
Christmas countdown tradition.
12 CAOs.
It's $108.08.
Oh, even better than I thought.
And here's what it includes: 12 cigars in the calendar, an MX2 Toro,
Nothing wrong with that.
an Italia Gondola, a Brasilia Samba, an American Monument, a Steel Horse Bullneck,
I haven't had that.
a Flathead Camshaft,
Oh, yeah.
a Columbia Magdalena,
Don't know it.
a Pilon Toro. That's a good cigar.
That's a good one. Pilons are
A
great.
Session Garage, Bones Blind Huey. I have not had that one.
The bones are great. The Session I'm not a big fan of, but keep going.
Zocalo Toro, and a BX3 Toro.
Dude, that BX3
Yeah.
is unreal. It's
Yeah.
so good.
They say in this article in Cigar Aficionado, the anticipated in-store date for this was October 17th, although there's a chance you might smoke through them all before Thanksgiving. So I love it, though. The whole 12 days of Christmas, and you open a small door for each day, and inside the small door is your cigar.
How cool.
I love the idea. This is the Cigar Advent Calendar. That's a great idea. And you know what? Next year, that's what I'm going to ask for my birthday. Like, because people are always like, what should I shop for you for your birthday? And I'm always like, cigars.
Cigars.
But sometimes they don't know cigars, and so
What
they
to get you, yeah.
go in. Yeah. So get me if that's in your price range, get me the Cigar Advent Calendar. I absolutely dig it.
Well, we talked briefly about this last time. Was it Oliva put out an advent calendar last year?
Yes, Oliva did.
But the problem is I think price point, because I mean that's a lot of cigars.
Well,
So
especially if you do
making
a
it
full month Advent calendar.
right.
Yeah.
So making it a 12-day quote unquote advent calendar, I think, is financially a little more plausible.
Yeah. 12 days of Christmas.
I mean,
you
I
can tie in with
love
that.
the full commitment of like, let's do a full advent calendar. Don't get me wrong. I love seeing people go all in.
I want to thank you for something.
What's that?
For taking that Malorty stuff
Getting it
and
out
getting
here.
it out of here so I can't pick it up by accident. That was really
It's
awful.
in John's hands now, so if you get it again,
He's
I'm
to
just
blame.
saying.
I got it. I understand. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I will reward and take care of my buddy here, Ian, for taking care of getting that stuff out of my immediate reach. I will reward him with another episode of Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news, drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet.
Go ahead.
When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, all. Well, welcome to Drinking News once again.
I played that a little bit slow because I thought you were scrambling a little bit.
I was
like,
scrambling
forgot to
because I
get
didn't have the phone out here. Now, very soon, we've already gotten a couple of guests to do the video version of How to Take My Gator to the Vet. So once we get a couple more, we'll start using those as the thing. Adam will have to
Those are a
insert
little
them
more
into-
sophisticated, though. I'm gonna have to jazz up the theme a little bit.
Well, you can do that. I just like the idea of that someone will either take a puff on a cigar or take a drink. Like, so we had Mark Burrell do this last week. After the show, he recorded this for us. So he takes a nice big sip of his wine and very elegantly looks into the camera and says, "I had to take my gator to the vet."
Yes.
It's a wonderful, juxtaposition of
And
something.
we had Daryl from Limavady.
From Limavady, yeah, and his
Yeah,
Irish
that's-
accent is
yeah,
awesome.
it's beautiful,
So
yeah.
he takes a sip of the whiskey and then says something I believe that sounded like I had to take my gator to the vet, but it's not something you hear an Irish person say very often.
no,
so.
not so often.
Well, welcome to Drinking News. It's our segment on the program where we bring you a story that we picked up from somewhere in the news world. Not a site like The Onion. These are not made up. These are, well, they could be made up, but they were made up by mainstream media. So these
mainstream media would never make up.
of course they wouldn't. Of course they wouldn't.
Happening here?
And why would they? So anyway, these are not stories that we have crafted. These are stories that we have found, and they are sometimes, but not always, about drinking. But they're always best enjoyed when you've been drinking, and certainly we have. Although I will say today, some of the things we've had to drink are better than others.
Look, we tried Mama Juana, so you don't have to.
That's right. Well, it's probably happened to everyone at one time or another.
Oh, it did to me, but I got some cream and it cleared it right up.
Okay, good.
Oh, wait, what are we talking about?
Talking about when you think you've hit the jackpot.
Oh, yeah, then that's exactly what I was talking about. Go ahead.
Only to be ultimately disappointed.
That's why I got the cream.
I once had a scratch-off ticket. Then I scratched. I was convinced I'd won $10,000. I was so excited. Turns out I was looking at it wrong, and I'd only won $10, which sounds like it could be very cool until you realize that the ticket cost me $10. So you know, that's just
this is one of those
getting your money back. I mean, it's great that you didn't lose the $10, but it's not like
This is one of those
nothing.
when you win the $5 million from the lottery, like I'll take the cash option, and they're like, okay, well that's going to be like
$47.
That's going to be like $2.3 million, and the government takes out theirs, and everybody else takes out theirs, and you just owe them like $75.
Exactly. Or maybe you're one of these people who ordered like one of those dietary supplements that was hawked by that charlatan Dr. Oz, only to find out that they're worthless, and you actually gain a couple of pounds while you're taking them. Or you're throwing a party. And your buddy offers to chip in, says he'll buy all the beer. Only to show up
I've fallen victim to that.
Only to show up on party day with multiple 12 packs of Michelob Ultra and a couple of Montucky cold snacks.
Oh, Chris, I see you coming.
Well, a trio of drug thieves had a similarly disappointing experience recently, and it is today's short story on Drinking News. It all started when 3 Florida men broke into a home in Silver Springs, hoping to find pills or weed or other drugs inside. Once they got into the home,
I mean, there's something for a drug head who just is indiscriminate. He's like, I don't care what it is.
Yeah, I'll break into this house and see what we can find.
Give me anything. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah, maybe some lisinopril. Anyway, once the trio got into the home, they were thrilled to find out that they had indeed hit the jackpot. Well,
this sounds like a love story.
On the mantle, they discovered, lovingly placed, 3 jars of cocaine. If you do the math, that's 1 jar for each of the burglars. After ransacking the home, the 3 thieves took the jars to their home and began to have an epic party, snorting the contents and waiting for the coke to have effect.
Oh, my God. Don't tell me it was deceased people.
But before it did, they were startled by a knock at the door and opened it to find officers from the Silver Springs Police. Thanks to video surveillance of the house they'd broken into, police were able to find them very quickly. The men were arrested, and once they were properly handcuffed and read their rights, the cops broke the disappointing news to them. The jars were, in fact, actually urns, and the 3 men had snorted the cremated remains of the robbery victim's husband and 2 beloved dogs, Melly and Snooker.
Oh, my gosh.
The men were booked on burglary and breaking and entering charges and sent to jail. So let this be a cautionary tale to those of you
Listen out there, bro.
who live in Florida.
Hold on just a second. Now, I'm not what you'd call a drug head.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Very far from it.
Mm-hmm.
But the cocaine is not the same color
As ashes.
Ashes, right?
Yeah, I get it.
And there's also a little consistency thing. Like, again, I don't know how to score a lid of cocaine, but it's
you know what it looks like.
But I know what the stuff looks like. I've seen the movies.
Right.
Right? That doesn't look like gold medal flour.
Or sweet and low.
Or sweet and low.
Yeah.
I am like, how could you? And it's sitting on the mantle. That's where everyone keeps their.
Well, this is drinking
I
news.
can't even finish this.
This is drinking news, not crooks are smart. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm trying to bring up. So let this be a cautionary tale to those of you who live in Florida. These 3 men will be out of jail eventually, but you should have a little time first to do what you need to do. If you have the ashes of loved ones in an urn on your mantle, take them out and scatter them in the ocean or a flower bed or a grassy field or whatever the deceased loved one's wishes were. Because I think I can confidently say that no one has ever asked for their last wishes to be cremated and have their ashes snorted by a Florida man.
By a Florida man.
Reporting live from Silver Springs, where only a smudge in the bottom of an urn is all that remains of either Melly or Snooker.
Aww,
My
Snooker.
name is Cruze, and that is your
Drinking news. That's our time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all.
For Snookums.
Yeah, Melly and Snooker. That's what makes it good. All right,
For some reason, I just knew when you said in
no,
three
you
jars.
You saw it coming, right?
Like that. Now, like,
so who puts their? First of all, who puts their? Well, it said they were urns in the story, but apparently the guys thought they were jars. So apparently they weren't.
It's
they
not
weren't
weird.
decorative
It's not
urns.
weird that that's sitting on the mantle. It's weird that you would think that that's cocaine.
Well, crooks are not the brightest bulbs in the pack. At least not. There are some smart criminals, I suppose. There's a lot of really, really dumb ones, and this is a story of that. I mean, we've told plenty of those stupid criminal stories here on Drinking
Yeah,
News,
I mean, I suppose there's that whole
the guy that wears the F the police shirt when he goes to jail. I mean, come on.
I was driving to Louisiana one time, and I'm on that Atchafalaya.
Talking about that long causeway.
Yeah, it's like a causeway. That's what I was looking for. It's like a 20-mile long bridge, right?
Yeah, it's a long bridge.
And it's a little trafficy, and this car gets up behind me, and they're kind of swerving back and forth, trying to get around me, and they're honking their horn and flashing their lights and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? So I get over a little while later when I can. This car zooms past me, middle fingers out the window, and there's a sticker on the back of the car that says, "Bad cop, no donut."
Oh, yeah, see? That's always... And it's kind of like... I've always felt like this way, and it's less of a thing now because pot has been legalized in so many different states. But I've always felt like that over the last 20 years, before that all started to happen, the guy with the
The big
Volkswagen
pot
bus
leaf.
with the big pot leaf bumper sticker.
No reason to
He's
pull
just
that guy over.
kind of asking for a stopover, So Jung has poured for us another one that looks like an ale.
Just to finish up my story, a couple miles down the road,
Yeah?
I'm smiling because guess what?
Yeah?
Oh, he's up against the back of his car in
Oh,
handcuffs.
that's a beautiful story. That's a beautiful... Don't you just love it? Especially that he gave you the finger and then you got to see that revenge. I love it. Okay, digging this on the nose. Liking it already on the nose.
Spicy, baby.
Have not taken a sip yet. But yes, very, very spicy, very pumpkin. At least on the nose. You've had a sip. What do you think?
It's almost hot spicy. It's almost like a hot pepper kind of feel in there.
It's got a little pepperiness to that spice. Yes.
Yeah, spicy, peppery. Like
Now, I'm not
spicy
sure.
pepper kind of thing.
I'll be honest. I'm not completely sure how I like that because I'm not a huge fan of spicy beers. And when I say
I'm
spicy,
very much
I
the
mean
same
like
way. So-
hot spicy.
So here's what I think. Like the initial on this.
I didn't pick that up on the nose. Spicy, but
I get the spicy on the nose and I take a sip and it's really nice. And it leaves me with a spicy burn in the back of my throat, which I don't like. I don't mind a whiskey hug kind of burn.
right.
I'm on a boozy burn, but don't really like that kind of burn from a drink. From food, yes,
Yeah.
but from a drink. So this is not my favorite.
Yeah, I agree. It's probably my least favorite of all so far. It'll be interesting to see what it is. All right, beer number 2. We're going to have 3 in this segment. So Jong has poured us 2 more. This one a little darker, but again, not like those 2 extremely dark ones that we got there in the last segment.
This one has an unusual kind of earthiness to it. Smell.
Earthiness is a good way to describe that, yes.
What am I smelling in there?
See if I pick it up on the
Earthy,
taste.
kind of.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a. I don't know what that smell is. It's like a loamy kind of earthy.
And maybe it's the heat from the one that we just had, but I'm not actually getting pumpkin here. Maybe I just need to drink more.
You want some Mama Wanna palate cleanser? I'm sorry, palate eraser? I mean, erasing and cleansing are the same thing, right?
That's totally what it is. It's a palate eraser.
It's a palate eraser.
Okay. On second sip, I am picking up a little on the finish, a little pumpkin on the finish. But this is less pumpkin-y to me than any of the ones we've tried, including the one with the heat.
This is the most hoppy one, too.
Right. I like the taste of the beer, but as a pumpkin ale, I'm less convinced.
I'm wondering if I'm just palate wrecked from the one right before it.
Could be.
Because I still got that spice heat in the back of my throat going on. That was an amazing save, by the way.
Thank you. Because I have not saved all of them today. So I've got my little notepad here is wet.
This one is a little nondescript, and I don't know if it's because...
Nondescript's a good way to say it, yes.
Because I've burnt my palate with that recent one. Let me see if I can clear it with some of this Prairie Artisan.
That's what I tried to do. I tried to clear it with a little pumpkinator.
I don't know if that's the best idea.
Yeah, maybe not. Seemed to help me a little bit, though.
Actually, it brings out more pumpkin in here.
Mm-hmm. This is probably the least pumpkin-y of anything we've tried, in my opinion.
Yeah, but it's also... The beer's okay, but it's not, like, outstanding, I think. I don't know what we got going on here.
I like it, but if we're evaluating these for being pumpkin ales, it's not my favorite. Or pumpkin beers. All right, we got one more, John. Oh, here comes a dark one, Ian. All right. So we had a couple of dark ones together in the last segment. Now we've had two lighter ones and a dark one.
Excuse me.
So on the nose, this just strikes me as like an imperial stout. Like I'm not necessarily picking up pumpkin.
I'm getting coffee.
Yeah, coffee.
Coffee's got a little spice to it, though. Like so maybe I'm picking up on that.
Fascinating. This is totally different than what I was expecting.
I like this one.
Whereas this
one's real drinkable.
The first two dark ones that we tried in the last segment, the Pumpkinator and the Prairie Artisan Ales, these were more pumpkin-y to me than this is.
Yeah.
But this is a really delicious stout with maybe a tiny hint of pumpkin.
I think that's my favorite one of the day, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Is there like a little bit of cacao chocolate in there?
And it's a very powdery chocolate, kind of malt chocolate kind of thing. There's a very there's a coffee element to it.
I like it.
There's a little bit of a Christmas/pumpkin spice to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a slight stickiness to it that I really enjoy.
I will mention this. You said the word Christmas, and we talked about holidays, all that stuff. I am in a more holiday mood since we have tried all of these pumpkin ales today.
I am too.
It has moved me in that direction.
Yep.
I am ready for the onslaught of Christmas special advertising.
Are you going to go stand in line on Black Friday or the night before and wait to get your
I stay in my
TV
home I stay in my home on Black Friday, and I'm afraid to go out. That's how I feel about Black
I'm
Friday.
kind of the same way.
And I still have an issue with it being called Black Friday. I was in the radio business for 25 years before this show ever happened, right? And I used to do morning shows. And we used to refer to the day before Thanksgiving as Black Friday in a derogatory way. Like it was Black Friday because you got to be out of your mind to go to the mall that day and fight with people over the sales and what have you. Black Friday was not a positive term. And somehow all of these companies picked it up. It's our Black Friday sale.
Well, not only that, but Black Friday sale starts on like Wednesday.
Oh, yeah. Oh, right. Wednesday of October.
Or you have to stay in line starting on Thursday.
Yeah, so I'm not a fan of the
First off, if you're one of those people that stands in line overnight for a Black Friday thing, I want you to go ahead and just start. I don't know what you make it work, but I want you to start counting your hours from the minute you leave the house. And I want you to count how many hours you just stood in line. And I want you to add your daily hourly to that and see how much you actually saved. Because
in my mind, the single last day you would find me out at stores is Black Friday.
Oh, yeah.
That's the day I'm going to avoid most of all. Because I really don't like crowds. Like, for me, if I'm going to be in a crowd and stand in a long line, there damn well better be a roller coaster at the end of it.
Yeah,
that's how I feel about it.
Fun. I love crowds when I'm on stage.
Oh, that's fine when you're on stage. I used to love them when I was a club DJ. You know, you had the whole crowd jumping, but I was able to be separated from them. I didn't have them like all, getting sweaty around me and stuff.
And getting sweaty with it.
I'm just saying.
No.
John, let's start finding out what we had here. This was our first beer. Oh, very
Atomic
interesting.
Pumpkin. Now, I've
Voodoo
seen
Ranger
this.
Atomic Pumpkin.
Okay, so this
That was the
the
first beer of this segment.
spicy, peppery one.
And I said, I wrote down in my notes, I wrote no. I did not like this one.
So it has the Voodoo Ranger
I like Voodoo Ranger.
pilot guy on it.
I love their IPAs.
It says Atomic Pumpkin, and it says special release, but special has been X'd out, and it puts spicy in the place of special. It's coming in at 6.4%. Ale brewed with pumpkin, cinnamon, and chilies.
So I will say this: New Belgium's a great brewery, but I do not want chili in my pumpkin beer.
Remember, I mentioned it smelled real hoppy too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So not a fan of that, and I love their.
They're marketing their artwork is terrific.
Yeah, their artwork's fantastic. Their Voodoo Ranger line is generally
Their
fantastic.
Voodoo Ranger
And
IPAs are fantastic.
if you want a spicy pumpkin beer, this is I think right up your alley. But
if
I
that
don't like
floats
it.
your boat, go for it. All
I
right.
just don't like. I don't like peppers in my drink.
John, what was number 2? Number 2, there's your Dogfish Eddie.
And it's way the different color than I was expecting.
Yeah, you were expecting that to be darker.
And that was
That's
not
the
a lot of character in
pumpkin
that
ale.
one.
No, it was very
Brown
interesting.
ale brewed with pumpkin and spices, and I just put not very pumpkin, which is probably okay on its own. This might be worth trying before you have a bunch of other pumpkin stuff, but it's a lot less pumpkin-y than all the other ones, which might make it really good. I don't know. Not my favorite today, though.
All right, let's see what else we got. This is our final pumpkin beer. Yes, the Clown Shoes.
Favorite pumpkin beer of the day.
Pumpkin Sombrero, a Mexican-style chocolate stout with pumpkin puree. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing my words. I'm completely blaming the Mama Juana.
I mentioned Clown Shoes earlier, even about how ridiculous some of their stuff is. This is my favorite one of the day. I love this. Pumpkin Sombrero, the Luchador series. I love their cartoon artwork.
So Clown Shoes scoring a big victory for you here.
Yeah, this is 100% my favorite of the day. Like, I knew as soon as I tasted it, I was like, there it is. I even put five dots for 5 stars and put real good right next to it.
All right. So I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show, and let's have both of us say what our 3 favorites of the day were. I mean, 3 out of 7, that gives you some leeway there.
I'm picking up what you're laying down.
All right. Very good. We'll be back to do that next. It's Smoking and Toasting on whatever we're on.
On whatever you were listening to.
I know how to love, and I know who I am.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. This is our program about craft beer, fine spirits, other spirits, and hand-rolled cigars.
Other spirits.
Yeah. Some can be described as fine, some not so much. I like to point out, by the way, that when you're allowed to bring the beers, we get all like thick and chewy beers, like super high ABV beers. And when you're allowed to get the spirits, I mean, once it was Malort and once it was this.
No, sir. Twice it was Malort.
Twice it was Malort. You're correct. See, this is why it's called I Don't Learn from My Mistakes is what it's called. I do enjoy the beers.
It puts you in a somewhat awkward position because you can either take a chance on what I'm going to bring or you can go spend your hard-earned money.
Well, in fairness, you have brought some great stuff, too.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you brought some really great stuff.
I'm consistently inconsistent, though.
Yes, that's right. I love it. I love it. So, we have tried pumpkin beers. We've tried 7 different ones. Ian, I'm very interested to see what you would rate as your top 3.
Top 3.
Of the 7 that we had.
Oh, I forgot to write down my second one, but I know what it was. Top 3 in order of how much I like them. Let's go with 3 first. Let's go with the Brooklyn Post Road Pumpkin Ale.
And that was number 2 of the first break. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
That was the second one in the first segment that we did beer. That I liked. It was a little more carbonated than I liked, but that can be fixed by simply letting it sit for a little bit in a glass. Mm-hmm. Taking a little bit of carbonation out. But I like the malt. I like the hoppy nose on it. I like the hop finish on it. I think they got a very balanced beer. The next favorite one was Prairie.
There's your number 2.
That Prairie, where'd it go? Oh, yeah. Prairie, Wanderlust. Basic Becky is what it's called.
Yep.
Man.
By the way, that's a really demented pumpkin on there. That's kind of scary almost how demented that pumpkin is. But yes, Basic Becky.
Basic Becky Imperial Stout with pumpkin, cinnamon, allspice, nutmeg, coriander, clove, and caraway. And it is as complex as it sounds. Mm-hmm. And then my absolute 100% favorite of all today was the last one we did, the clown shoes.
Really interesting.
Clown shoes, pumpkin sombrero, buddy. Mexican style chocolate stout with pumpkin puree is hands down the best one today.
And your least favorite?
Least favorite was probably the Dogfish Head, actually.
Really? You like that less than the Atomic Pumpkin?
Oh, you know what? No, the Atomic Pumpkin, I don't like the spice.
Yeah, because the Atomic Pumpkin was my least favorite.
So I'd put that least favorite and then the Dogfish Head right after it.
I'm so glad, by the way, that I was able to buy a single of that Atomic Pumpkin.
I will tell you this, though. One thing about the Dogfish Head that kind of intrigues me, there's not a lot of situations where I think I'd really like the Atomic Pumpkin because I don't really like chili in my beer. Mm-hmm. One thing that intrigues me about the Dogfish Head Pumpkin Ale, though, is if I try it without any other pumpkin beers around, is it going to be pumpkin-y enough? And is it just enough to actually be really nice and refreshing?
And that is a really good observation because I remember this from other times we've done pumpkin beer stuff. It's like sometimes there'd be ones that I had been drinking and really enjoying all by themselves.
But they don't get rated.
And I don't rate them as high when I'm trying other things. So that's a legitimate thing. We've done that with other beers too.
Because I almost suspect that if I tried this by itself, being less pumpkin-y than all the other ones, I suspect that I might like this better outside of the we're drinking a bunch of pumpkin beers situation. So as my second least favorite beer today, I want to give it that caveat because Dogfish Head makes great beers, but
they really do.
What did you come up with?
Number 3 for me was the UFO, the very first one. that we tried.
That one that was very
it was a little
sweet.
more sweet. It was kind of like a really sweet slice of pumpkin pie. Mm-hmm. I dug that. Show me that UFO can. Do you have it over there?
I think it's over here.
Oh, there it is. So that's what that one looked like. Journey to the Planet Pumpkin was what that beer was actually called. So that was my number 3. My number 2 was the Clown Shoes. Your number 1. Pumpkin sombrero, Mexican style chocolate stout with pumpkin puree, and I just love the comic book art on all of these clown shoes. There's a boom, pow, splat there.
Yes.
You got to love that. That was my number 2. My number 1, believe it or not, was the Prairie Artisan Ales.
Prairie Artisan Ales, even.
I dug that one. I thought that was just
that's unusual because
it was so complex and wonderful.
But it's also so viscous with such a huge mouthfeel that I assumed that maybe that would be one that you'd like a little bit less.
It's an imperial stout with pumpkin, cinnamon, allspice. I thought it said alpaca. I was like, now we know why it was so different. Pumpkin, cinnamon, alpaca, nutmeg, and then clove and coriander and caraway. You would think, based on how I feel about clove and even about some of those other spices, that this wouldn't be something that one of those would put me off. But none of them did in this beer.
With their powers combined.
I thought their powers combined, they were like Wonder Twin powers from the old Super Friends TV show, and they combined just perfectly to make a stronger and more exciting hero.
Yeah, well, one of them in the form of an iced mug, and one of them could be a form of that liquid. This is very interesting. I want to point out something that I just realized. Mm-hmm. You just read that off the bottle.
Mm-hmm. Basic Becky.
With no glasses.
Yeah, so interesting that you bring that up. I did have cataract surgery and vision correction surgery at the same time where they did lens implants. And my vision has gotten progressively better. It's been 2 months since I did the first eye and a month since I did the second one. And yes, it was because of my vision not necessarily being like 100% that I saw allspice and thought it said alpaca, but I was able to figure it out. And but seriously,
But you did actually read that
yes. And my doctors,
without putting your glasses on.
my
That's pretty
doctors have
amazing.
been like almost like impressed with how well
Yeah,
mine has gone. So it sure is nice to have something go the way it's supposed to and go right.
that's pretty awesome.
And yeah, so I'm very thankful
Congratulations,
for it.
my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate that. As someone who had to wear thick glasses starting in second grade.
Oh, man.
Like thick, like make you look like a complete nerd, and nobody would want to go out with you when you get a little older. Those were the
I
kind
told
of
you,
glasses
man,
I had to wear.
when I'm walking through, I teach at a K-8 school on some days. Mm-hmm. When I'm walking through the school and I see a kid with glasses, I always say, hey, man, those are cool glasses.
That's such a great thing
You
to
know,
do.
like just
Yeah, just build them up a little bit.
something. I didn't have to wear glasses until high school and a little bit after, but
Yeah.
I can imagine.
But see, it's one thing if you can wear some reasonably fashionable glasses. When you got to have really super thick lenses, there's no fashionable glasses.
Yeah,
that take
and
lenses
then
up.
the other side that kids get too is you don't get fashionable glasses when you're a kid. You get the kind that get strapped to your head and are made for kids to try and destroy.
Right. Yeah. And it reminds me of that. You remember the video for the song "No Rain" by Blind Melon with the girl in the bee costume and the big glasses? That's what it reminds me of.
Or you end up with what in the Army they call BCGs,
Yeah.
the
Basic
standard
combat glasses.
birth control goggles. But yeah,
Oh, okay, gotcha. that makes even more sense. Well, Ian, I enjoyed these pumpkin beers, some of them more than others, but I enjoyed them very much. I will not say the same for the spirit that we tried today, but that's okay. Sometimes you
oh
gotta
wait,
do
my
that.
feelings are hurt.
Well, perhaps they should be. Next week, a couple of guests joining us from the Houston version of the Whiskey Social, and we're excited about tasting some whiskeys with them and getting on with things. And then, of course, we're creeping closer and closer to the holiday season, so it won't be long before we're tasting the Christmas Ale, the 2022 Christmas Ale from Anchor Steam.
Yes,
So very
that'd be
excited.
awesome.
Yeah, so have a great week, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the Halloween show and for our horrible tasting time with the Mama Wana. And have a great week, my friends. And
Mama no wanna.
cheers, y'all. Mama
Cheers,
no
y'all.
wanna, not at all.
Just love the one I think I'm in love.